Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday. This is the second show of the day, of course. Did my morning show earlier on today, but now this one reacting to Mikel Arteta's press conference at London Colney, which finished just a short time ago. And look where I am. For nostalgia's sake, everyone, the wires are back. The wires are back. I've had to shift position in the room because it's too dark otherwise, and I needed the light to be hitting me. So for probably one last time, I'm in the process of selling this house at the moment. You can get to see the wires and you can all rage about how bad they are in the comments below for one time only. I thought I'd give you a treat. But enough about the TV wires. Let's talk about Mikel Arteta's press conference, shall we, at London Colney just a little bit earlier on today. Big injury updates from Mikel Arteta. Some good news, some bad news. And yeah, so kind of give and take when it comes to Arsenal and injuries this season, isn't it? So we'll talk about that. He's also been speaking about managing his 250th game for the club tomorrow against Nottingham Forest as well. So run through the main talking points from the press conference today. And we'll start with the injury news, shall we? First of all, let's start with some of the positive injury news because we all want our spirits raised a little bit after such a horrible season, quite frankly, when it comes to injuries. So in terms of tomorrow's game, Mikel says there's been some positives, some others not so. Trossard seems to be okay. He trained this morning and seems to be feeling good. We will assess everything with the doctor right now as he was able to be part of the session. So that's good. Of course, Leandro came off in Belgium's game in midweek in the first half with what looked like an impact injury. And the word was an impact injury, not a muscular. And I think this update from Mikel kind of backs that up. And then on Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice, who of course didn't go away with England during the international break, couldn't finish the game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge before the international break due to injury. But Mikel says they have had their first partial session today, so very good as well. And on Ricardo Calafiori, he's been out for a long time since that knee injury he suffered. I can't even remember who it was against. Was it in the Champions League against Shakhtar Donetsk on the top of my head? I think it was. But he's been out a long time. Mikel said Ricky trained today, so his rehab is going really well. He was able to do certain things last week with the physios and trained on the pitch this week with us and today, so he will be in the squad. Brilliant news that is for Arsenal, for Mikel Arteta and for Ricardo Calafiori himself. Obviously, he's been a big miss. I know all the talk sort of in the last few weeks or so was all about Martin Odegaard. Of course, the captain, Arsenal missed him, but I do think they miss Calafiori an awful lot, not just defensively, but I do think in the build-up play as well. You know, in the time he's been on the pitch, he showed how much of an impact he can have. Yes, he is a little bit raw and occasionally he'll get caught out of position defensively, but the power that he brings and just he must be such a nightmare to defend against, Calafiori, because he just pops up all over the pitch and that creates space for everyone else. So I think he's been a big miss. I think he's been a big miss for Gabriel Martinelli as well. Those two seem to just be beginning to form a little bit of a partnership, those two, and then Calafiori gets his injury. So I'm sure Martinelli's going to be delighted that he's back. On Saka and Rice, obviously, look, we expected it, that it would probably be the case that they would be available. He did say a little bit more. I'm just trying to get the quote up here on Rice and Declan, saying he was asked whether they are now in a better position having not gone away with England. And he said, I prefer it when players are in the routine and in the rhythm to play. They couldn't do it for England because they were injured. So we had to try and facilitate everything that we could for them to be in the best condition for tomorrow, which is entirely understandable. You know, they're Arsenal's players at the end of the day. They don't owe England anything. If they're fit, they would go away and they would play, as they always do for England. But they weren't fit. They were injured. It was shown they were injured by the fact they couldn't finish that game against Chelsea. So they couldn't go with England. And yes, Arsenal might benefit this weekend from them having a break, but you know, they are their players, and Arsenal have every right to do what they want to do with them. So that'll be a huge boost for Arsenal. I do wonder when he says, "Oh, they had their first partial training session today." Those are the sort of words that will keep the opposition guessing. Like, oh, are they going to be fit enough if they've only had one partial session? Again, with my Mikel Arteta hat on, I would suggest that they've probably had more than one partial session in the build up to this game, but we shall see. But anyway, positive news when it comes to Saka, Rice, Trossard and Calafiori. Right, as is the way with Arsenal, where there's good news, there's bad news when it comes to injury. And we've definitely got some bad news on Ben White. Mikel Arteta sort of revealing the true extent, the full extent of this knee injury and the knee operation that he's had and how long he's going to be out for. Mikel said, Ben is going to be out for months. It's been a different kind of, it's been different kinds of struggles. It's never been the same thing, but we had to make a decision in the last few weeks, unfortunately. We know that Ben is going to push every boundary, but it got to a point where we had to protect the player, and we decided to do the surgery. He agreed with that, and obviously it will keep him out for a few months. We have to see how he reacts post-surgery. I don't expect him to be out for half a season or a year, but I cannot tell you exactly how long. On the blow of losing White for a couple of months, he says it is a challenge. It was something we didn't expect at all, because when you talk about consistency and availability in a defensive line, Ben was probably the best with Gabby and Willow. So we'll miss him, but that's it. We're going to have to find alternatives. But there are a lot of positives as well, because Declan is back, Bukayo is back, Durian is a good place because he could not play the last game. Leo came back in a good place. Ricky's back after missing 5 or 6 weeks. There's a lot of players, and that's great news. And look, it is a blow. Obviously, we're going to be without Ben White for a few months. He's been so consistent, as Mikel pointed out there. Just such a warrior, Ben White. He's been playing through the pain for a long, long time. And there does come a point where you can't just continue to do that, because you're going to do yourself much more harm than good. I'm sure there'll probably be questions there. Could this not have happened in the summer with this injury? But I think Arsenal at that point thought that he was okay and it'd be fine to get through the season with it. It's obviously not panned out like that. He has continued to play. He's started to miss games every so often, which again, like for Ben White, is very, very rare. So that's obvious that he's just been playing with this injury. And as Mikel said, you've got to get to a point where you've got to protect the player. You've got to sit down and say, look, this isn't going away. You can continue to play with it as you have been, but that's not going to do you any good long term. So it is best now to get this operation done, even though you're going to be out for a few months, and we're going to have to make do. And the good thing for Arsenal is Durian Timber, as Mikel pointed out, is back and looking good. That needs to continue, obviously, because we're going to talk about Tomiyasu in a minute. But as long as Durian Timber is there and he's fit, then Arsenal are in a pretty good place, despite Ben White being out for a long time, because Durian Timber is an absolute quality player. But having said that, they're going to miss him. No doubt about that. Bukayo Saka's going to miss him. Martin Odegaard's going to miss him. You know, Timber is going to have to step in and sort of continue that relationship down the right-hand side, which made Arsenal so strong. But I do think ultimately this is a good thing and a wise thing for Ben White. So, Ben White out for a few months. Okay, so talking about Tomiyasu, he was also involved in an update today. Not a good one. On Kieran Tierney, first of all, Mikel said, Kieran, not yet. He had a couple of sessions with the team, but he's not ready yet to be with the team. Tomiyasu is going to be out as well. He was then pushed on, a sort of time frame for Tomiyasu's return. He couldn't give one. He said, no, he's going to be away now for a few weeks for him to continue with his training and to change environment a little bit, because it's been really tough for him as well. As you can imagine, he's one of the guys where the only thing he wants to do is work 24 hours to get better, and he feels terrible when he's not fit. So it's a real shame. We're going to give him the best opportunity to try and unlock something to help him have him back as quickly as possible. But I think we need to be patient. So that's definitely not good news on Tomiyasu. I have to say, during the international break, the word I was hearing that Arsenal are hopeful he might be able to come back after the international break. So I presume there's been some sort of setback when it comes to Tommy, and that's not great. I mean, there's no time frame given there, but it's pretty easy to sort of look at what Mikel's had to say and think that is not a good update on him. I mean, for Tomiyasu, first of all, as Mikel points out, I think the whole change of environment, getting him away from London Colney for a few weeks, send him somewhere else to do some rehab, is probably a wise thing, because mentally it must be so tough on a player. And I know it's frustrating for us as fans. I see it in the comments and reactions whenever there's updates on Tomiyasu and another injury of, get rid, we can't rely on him. And I understand that, because ultimately you want to see your players play. But for him mentally, it must be so incredibly tough, because he wants to play just as much as we want to see him play. He wants to play. It's what he is. He's a footballer. And not being able to do your job would be absolutely awful, I'm sure. And he's, as Mikel says, he's such a hard worker, and he'll be so determined to get himself back fit quickly. So mentally, this must be really, really draining on him. So I can understand why they're sending him off, get him out of the environment of Colney, where he has to sort of sit in the treatment room and watch his teammates walk out to the training pitch every single day. It's so tough for the players to see that. So I think it's probably a wise move, and hopefully he can come back in the not too distant future and can still play a big, big part in this season for Arsenal, because he's a top quality player. You want your best players available. And if Tomiyasu is available, then Arsenal's squad is an awful lot stronger. I'll go through my my sort of predicted 11 for tomorrow's game in tomorrow morning's preview show. As I said earlier on, if you want to get involved in that, give me your predicted 11. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see who's going with who in terms of who plays where, because Arteta does have quite a few options available to him now in terms of who's going to play left back, what he does if Timber, as we all I think expect and hope, plays right back, what happens in midfield. There's lots of different options for Arteta now following this injury update we've got from him today in the press conference. So give me your team, your predicted 11s, or maybe not predicted 11s, but the 11s you would like to see tomorrow. And I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the preview show in the morning. So I'll go over mine then as well. It is a big game for Mikel Arteta tomorrow. His 250th in charge of Arsenal. He was asked about that. He was asked about Pep Guardiola staying and everything like that. On the 250, he said, bringing the club. He was asked what his greatest achievement is in 250 games. He says, bringing the club together 100%, lifting the spirit and giving a very clear DNA to the football club and setting it right again to be representing this club and this football shirt, from the players to everybody who works at the club, in the way that is expected at this level. And I know, look, ultimately we want trophies, massively want trophies. That's what we want to celebrate. It's what Arsenal are about. But I still I can understand what Arteta says there, because from where it was when he took over, just the difference is stark. It's a completely different club. We've got completely different expectations now. So I can understand why he's very proud of that. On whether the aim now is to add trophies to what he's already done, which I think we all want. He said that is not the only one, but you have to maintain a lot of things that you do. Sometimes you achieve them, but you can drop very quickly. So it's about maintaining them. And that's work you have to do consistently every single day. But now it is about winning. And that is the next step for sure. And I'm sure we will all get on board with that, because it would be very, very nice to have a trophy on board. He was then asked about, what's next? What is it all about? Trying to avoid further injuries now? He said, don't even talk about it. I'd like some normality, not everything that has happened lately. But again, it's like everything. There is a lot to learn from those experiences for yourself, and how you can start to look constantly and get frustrated, and you have to get out of that. No time for excuses or fighting for something else. The team hasn't reacted in that way, and I really love the experience of going through something difficult with them, because so many cases were quite tough emotionally to deal with. On whether he sort of sees similarities where Arsenal are now when they were when they came back after their trip to Dubai at the turn of the year last season. He said it was not only because of Dubai, that would be too simple. It's because I'm always looking back at all of the games. I look at all the positions in the Premier League, what they're doing, just to understand the context that we're in and how good we are in relation to the opposition. I'm very confident that when this team finds a bit of consistency and a bit of normality, it is going to come. And then when he was asked what the key was to finding that consistency, he simply said availability. And for the first time in a long time, yes, there's some disappointing news when it comes to Ben White and Tomiyasu, and obviously Tierney's not quite ready. But having said all that, for the first time in a long time, Mikel has got a fairly strong squad to choose from. That bench tomorrow is going to be the strongest bench Arsenal have had in a long, long time. And that can only be a good thing. It's all about now staying in that sort of theme and continuing on from that. As Arteta says, don't even talk about injuries, because Arsenal do not need any more. Finally got some players back now. It's got a lot of options to choose from. Now, as I said earlier in the week, this is the time to start winning. Get on a run, get some momentum going, win tomorrow. Biggest game of the season by a mile, in my opinion, tomorrow. Win that, get some momentum behind you, go on a run, see where you are come the turn of the year after the next 7 Premier League games. Win those 7 games, Liverpool are going to be within touching distance. I'm absolutely sure of that. And that is it for today's second show today. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. As always, like I said, I'm back in the morning to do the preview show. I'm going to the game tomorrow in the press box tomorrow. So I'll be doing my live match reporting on social media. If you need that, I'll be doing it. But I will be doing a preview show in the morning as well. So give me your 11s that you want to see for that game and why, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. For now, for me, from the wires, it's a very good evening. Have a great Friday, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.